Today we are taking an Argosy cruise, starting in Lake Union in Seattle, going through the Hiram M. Chittenden Locks, also known as the Ballard Locks, and finishing off in downtown Seattle along the pier. Going through the locks is a very interesting experience. It raises and lowers the water levels so that boats and ships can pass from Lake Union through to the Puget Sound, which then connects to the Pacific Ocean.
Conveyance of any kind while on board today, thanks to the Washington State Clean Air Act. We appreciate everyone's compliance with this. It goes for all areas of the vessel. The nation is about 2 miles away from where we are right now. We're going to take the scenic route.
A little bit of orientation for you folks. Front of the boat is called bow, back of the boat is called stern. Circular window, that's the same as cathedral. Now it might not look quite like what you picture when you think about the cathedral. And in fact, it was designed originally to look a lot more like a traditional cathedral. It was meant to be about twice as tall with spires about 1 ton. However, this building was designed in 90 on the water over here. The dry dock company was opened in 1919, just 2 years after the Ballard Locks opened. And their largest dry dock is designed first in the market for even faster boats. So it meant by the time we were ready, it had already saved up. Just ahead of us, we're going to come up on some little colorful houses along the pier that migrant workers could either squat on abandoned barges or slash together logs and put together houses on them. And then in 1962, the World's Fair came to Seattle. The city decided it didn't like the look of a bunch of people. Very excited about filming on location. And they arrived here in Seattle on a day in the spring of 1992 that looked much like today. And that was a problem because Sleepless in Seattle is set in the winter, and no one is going to believe that a day like today is winter in Seattle. Water cannons to constantly mist any outdoor scenes to create that Seattle drizzle that we're known for. And of course,
This is where they shot the scenes for Tom Hanks' home in the movie Sleepless in Seattle. And that is what the tour guide is referring to right now, the movie Sleepless in Seattle.
In older versions of the movie, it holds up pretty well. Newer, more high-definition releases, you can kind of tell something's a little bit off about the rain. And if you look closely in outdoor scenes, places like Pike Place Market, other public locations, you can see there are some people in the background wearing shorts and t-shirts. We have the North Lake Shipyard coming up off of our right-hand side. Gonna go by a couple more dry docks over here. Dry docks are several thousand years.
This is one of Seattle's more interesting and unusual parts. It's called Gasworks Park, and it has been in a number of movies as well.
Water, causing them to sink. And all commercial passenger vessels do need to come out of the water in dry dock once every 2 to 3 years for those things, as well as to meet Coast Guard requirements. We're about to head under the Aurora Bridge. that is the first of 4 bridges we're going to go under. Marine salvage and towing. And coming up off of our left-hand side, we're going to see a blue floating home with a little lighthouse out front, a bunch of names up on the sides. This floating home used to be owned by the Fremont Tug Company's owner. Alright, I want to point out another floating home off of our right-hand side. It's olive green, tucked under the bridge there. Very tall though, definitely more than 18 feet tall, definitely not ornaments. That's because this is actually a houseboat. This is kind of halfway between a boat and a house, able to leave the dock under its own power, often not hooked into plumbing and shore power, all of those things. Yeah, floating homes and houseboats are very expensive here in Seattle. The average price for a floating home is about $1.5 million. Definitely only a far cry from those original slums. But fortunately, our masts are down, which means we're about 28 feet tall. We can just barely fit under this bridge when it's closed. It's most likely opening for that sailboat that's behind us. Yeah, feel free to wave to the folks passing us if you'd like. Now you might have also noticed this is the most colorful bridge on this route. I was originally painted the orange color that you see on some accents there. Had to be repainted eventually. It was going to be that gray-green that you see on. That's because Google Maps is located right here. They wanted to do a good job on what's essentially their backyard. We're also coming up on the Fremont Market. Going to be off of our right-hand side through the trees. You'll probably be able to see lots of trucks and tents. This is a great place to find local art. Also, all sorts of things like rock shops, thrift stores. Only on Sundays. Also, all sorts of great street food here. Some other things refitted to become a research vessel once again. We're just about to go through an
One of the real cool perks about being friends with the captain of a ship is getting to go up into the wheelhouse. That was a real cool experience. And I brought my dad along as well, and he just loved it.
It has a lot of resistance. So she's a slow boat. She's not meant to coast for miles and miles. No, we're actually going a speed limit of 7 knots.
And safety reason, I assume.
It's actually for courtesy. There's a lot of people that are in boats and houseboats along the waterway here, and if we were to go rocking along more than 7 knots, we'd leave a big wake. We could damage stuff, so when you're about 6 feet, because it's a tugboat, so they need all that leverage to move the big ships around. Yeah, look at this one down here.
I don't believe I'm really doing this.
Yeah, 27 feet right now, so we fit under that other bridge as well, because we folded down our antennas. This bridge goes.
Yeah.
We've got Lady Mary and another of our Argosy.
Ballard Bridge, Ballard Bridge.
This is the best job I've ever had. I've worked all over the place. Lumber mills, I was a lifeguard for a while, I worked fast food, I went to the grocery store.
They are going for fish that are going to be solitary and found higher up in the waterfall.
Well, it looks like the water's lots of just opened up, so there are a lot of boats that just made their way out.
Now, as I mentioned, Ballard has really strong ties.
locks after that were before, just before. So it's on the locks are on this side of it.
We actually require that every landowner on the water here has some
It just barely fits the screws. It's a big fit.
Just barely fits.
Yeah, 6 inches of clearance on both sides. So, worst case scenario, we bump the wall pretty hard and it just causes us to rock around a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know
Trying to
what
fit,
expect.
yeah. I've done it probably, well more than 100 times.
Do you do that?
I started this gig when I was in 2018 as a bartender and a deckhand. And so I learned my way up. Tricks of the trade started when I was 14 on a Sea Scout boat. You were a Sea Scout too?
Yeah, I did that.
Down in, it was pretty spectacular. They had pancakes and sausages and all kinds of wonderful stuff to share. Been your narrator tour guide for the past 45 minutes or so. As we approach the locks, we're going to trade hats down there and become your deckhand. I'm going to call when they're ready. We're just going to kind of float out here, wait for traffic to go by, and then when they call us in, we'll make our way. This boat is 27 feet wide at the widest point, so that means I have 6 inches of clearance on either side. And that means that we might rock around a little bit on the way in, so please stay seated, hold on to something, or otherwise brace yourself during our locking. And once we are safe and secure inside the chamber, I'll take the microphone back up and tell you all about the function and history of the locks. Spot to view the locking from, and you'll hear from me again once we're on our way in.
We are now in line waiting for our boat's turn to go through the locks. The Hiram M. Chittenden locks, also known as the Ballard locks, was completed in 1917 by the Army Corps of Engineers. It raises and lowers the water level so the boats can pass through freshwater Lake Washington and Lake Union into the saltwater Puget Sound, which connects to the Pacific Ocean. Lake Union is 22 feet above sea level. There is also a fish ladder to let salmon go through.
Waiting for a few minutes, figure I'd talk to you about the priority system here at the locks. The locks are basically a boat elevator, and they have a relatively small capacity, can only do one way at a time. So there's a priority system to make sure that boats that have the most important, pressing things going on get to go first. So the first priority goes to government vessels, firefighters, police, Coast Guard, Navy, that sort of thing. They get to go first in every circumstance, regardless of this, if there's an emergency or not. Right after them are commercial vessels undergoing a regularly scheduled trip with paying passengers on board. And luckily, thanks to you guys, we get to check all 3 of those boxes. So with your help, we get to go first in a lot of circumstances. In fact, Patrol 9 up there, that Seattle police boat, has given up their place in line here for us to...
Una nadadita en el mar ahí, filmado. Que te perdió el hielo.
Alrighty folks, I see those gates open.
That's close. Super close.
Between about a -4 to a +16 tide, depending on the time of day and the moon phase and all sorts of good stuff like that. So it's never higher than the highest of the lake level out here, which is 20 to 22 feet above sea level all year round. And that's the basis of how the locks can function. Without that difference in height, the locks would not work because it's all based on hydraulic equilibrium. Once they open that valve, there's no pumps or anything that run. It just flows naturally down to a lower gravity, and the locking chamber would be raised up through the locks pretty regularly to make their way out to the islands or into the lakes, and having a wonderful time out here.
Yep, we're dropping down.
The locks are open 365 days a year, 7 days a week.
See the water's going down.
And 24 hours a day. There's no point in time the locks are closed, although if you come at a weird time of day, maybe, 2 in the morning, Christmas Day, you might have a harder time getting through. It might take you a little longer while they get someone to come help you, but oftentimes you can get through. Just might be a little bit of a wait. And that's all run by the folks here at the Army Corps of Engineers. They run this whole campus. A bunch of recreational boaters together in the large locks and make their way all as one. On the far side of the large locks, you have the Carl S. English Botanical Garden, a lovely place to go for a walk over there. Over 500 species of plants. Off to our left, you have the spillway dam. That's how they manage the lake level and send out some water during our wet season and retain water during the dry season. On the far side of the spillway dam, you have the salmon ladder. Salmon are very important to our ecology here, and so the salmon ladder allows them to transition through the locks as if it wasn't even our way out there into the salt water. We have about an hour left of our transit down to downtown, at which time Em is going to get back on the microphone and tell you all about the sights as we travel around. The rest of the tour is going to be the best chances to view wildlife, much less urban out there off of West Point. So keep your eyes peeled on the water and in the air. We saw some osprey earlier today, as well as great blue herons. Of course, seagulls are everywhere, but that's not much to look at. But all kinds of stuff to see out there in the salt water. I'm going to set down the microphone, focus on maneuvering, once again getting us safely out of the chamber. Please, again, hold on to something, stay seated, or otherwise brace yourself during our time close to the wall. And when we get out there, you can, again, roam around the vessel and enjoy the rest of the cruise.
And that did so well that they ended up getting rid of the boat rental entirely. So today, Ray's Boathouse and Ray's Cafe. Before we do though, real quick, I want to point out Shilshole Bay Marina. So all of these masts that are passing, as well as the breakwater here. This is the largest marina in Seattle. It's got room for 1,400 vessels. Also right inside the third phase of all the water here in Seattle. That's going to be liveaboards. Liveaboards are kind of the most bowling balls in the water. They often come up with just their head. And when you get a little bit closer to them, their faces are going to look like a flat triangular dorsal fin in the water. Take a couple of breaths. They look a little
not exactly. Well, Friday. Okay, so on the first one, I told you that the back. This is how
Here in this peninsula sticking out, you can see West Point Lighthouse in Discovery Park.
shortest lighthouse on the west coast and only 23 feet tall. If you look around right now, that's a lighthouse. This is what happens very far away. What happens that far? There's also the last lighthouse to be fully automated. Officially, or it's not. It's operated remotely by also a great place to visit over at Discovery Park.
Seeing all kinds of jellyfish, man. There's a big one right there.
Also got an osprey flying up above the lighthouse, above the hillside there. The bird that you see up in there. Osprey are fish-eating raptors. I'm going to take a short break here. I'll go up around to answer any questions you might have. So feel free to wave me down. I'll be back on the lake in about 10 minutes. About the region, and then we'll be getting into Elliott Bay and downtown Seattle.
As we come around the corner, downtown Seattle begins to come into view. Now we get our first views of the Space Needle, along with the downtown skyline. It looks marvelous today. You can see a huge cruise ship just leaving the pier in downtown, probably headed for Alaska. Off in the distance, you can see Lumen Field, where the Seattle Seahawks football team plays, T-Mobile Park, where the Seattle Mariners baseball team plays, and the cranes from the Port of Seattle, as well as that woman's head. I love this view of the Space Needle, with the blue skies and the patch of clouds behind it.
So all those rich folks could move up to the hill, built their new homes in the Queen Anne style. The people they left behind were not too happy about this, and they started calling the hill Queen Anne Town as a mocking term. The name stuck though. World's Fair, Seattle was developing really quickly. A lot of concrete going into the ground, a lot of buildings going up. Myrtle Edwards really valued green spaces. She wanted everyone to have access to the outdoors. So she worked with the city council to buy up old industrial land such as Gasworks Park throughout the city and turn it into a bunch of parks and make it accessible to the public. Then the city council ended up passing an ordinance that there had to be at least one park within a 10-minute walk of every globe up on top. This is the old Post Intelligencer or PI building. Letters around the globe say it's in the PI. This was Seattle's first newspaper. They did move out of the building when they went entirely online in 2009, but it has, if you would like to do so, again, feel free to move around. The Space Needle was built in 1962 as a centerpiece to the World's Fair, which had a 21st century exposition and space age theme. And it was meant to envision what a skyscraper would look like in the 21st century. Well, as you can see, we're well into the 21st century and we have exactly one Space Needle, so we're a little bit wrong about efficient use of vertical space at 605 feet tall with only 500 floors. It is, however, an excellent tourist attraction and landmark. The area around the base of the Space Needle today is Seattle Center. You find a lot of the only between downtown Seattle and Seattle Center. It's also built for the World's Fair. We're coming up on our historic waterfront now. About past Pier 70. Now Pier 70, the red building off of our left-hand side, is where real-world Seattle was built. At this point, though, it was illegal to live on our piers. They ended up getting around this by claiming that they were not a resident, but a 24-hour film studio. Next vessel on the water there. The Victoria Clipper, of course, goes up to Victoria, but they also operate the San Juan Clipper, the only whale watch that leaves out of Seattle. And next up, we're coming up on a mustard yellow building, some large red E's up on top. This is the Edgewater Hotel. Now, the Edgewater Hotel was built in 1962. There were an expected 9 million visitors for the World's Fair, and the Edgewater was supposed to be a place to host some of those people. Fortunately, it is pretty hard to build a hotel. A lot of guests complained. A lot of hotel staff also complained because the fish brought with them fish guts. Fish guts got everywhere. But the hotel's luck came around in 1964 when the Beatles came to town. None of the other hotels in the area would let them stay due to the reputation that their fans had and the security risk that they posed. The Edgewater, so 3 of our sides are surrounded by water. What could go wrong? We did underestimate those fans though. Several were pulled out of the harbor trying to get in underneath the hotel, and one even managed to sneak in one car. After the Beatles, a little bit of the backside of the public market side. Of course, if you have not yet been to the front side of Pike Place Market, I recommend doing so. It's a lot more exciting from that side. Pike Place was started back in 1907 in response to price gouging. People were buying up all of the local produce from our farmers and then reselling it for more than 10 times what they initially paid for it. Well, farmers decided to take matters into their own hands, cut out the middleman. For the next week, they brought more. Ever since, Pike Place Market has been one of the longest running public markets in the U.S. Today, it's a far cry from a couple of wagons on a street corner. We've got over 200 vendors, 5 levels, all sorts of things in addition to produce, fish markets.
As we're coming into the pier, we pass the Seattle Aquarium here, and here comes the Seattle Great Wheel. Up ahead, you can see the Spirit of Seattle, another Argosy boat. Now we're coming right alongside a Washington State ferry.
I am also a deckhand, and I just have to go high up the boat. Yeah, feel free to give the Spirit of Seattle a wave over there. We've also got a Washington State ferry coming in off of our right-hand side. If I've left you with any questions or you'd like any recommendations, I will be on the ramp as you disembark, so feel free to ask then. Hope you all have enjoyed the tour, and enjoy the rest of your stay here in Seattle.
Alrighty, a big, well-deserved, another wonderful tour. Not only is Em your tour guide, but they're also my deckhands. So they're going to get downstairs and get the boat tied up. And once they finish that, they'll be down there at Master Gate. If you have any questions or looking for any recommendations, M's your person down there. Feel free to chat with them. They'll be happy to supply you with any and all that. As well, if you thought they did a wonderful job on their tour and you'd like to pass along a token of your appreciation, you're more than welcome to do so down there. I'll sit on the microphone, focus on maneuvering, and once we're safe and sound here back at our slip, I will let you know when it's safe to disembark.
Well, bye for now. I'm going to head to the Alaska Sourdough Company and have some lunch along the pier. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.